Welcome to the Riding in the Weeds podcast, where we tackle life's inevitable challenges, from navigating mountain bike trails to overcoming business hurdles and forging deeper connections with pets and people. It's easy to find yourself tangled in the weeds, but we're here to help with insights and strategies that'll get you out of the weeds. Our goal is to boost your performance in both sports and everyday life by sharing essential skills that we've learnt along the way. Through tales of our entrepreneurship journey, thrilling biking adventures, and fostering meaningful relationships, your hosts, Natasha Lucky and Jenny Brandon, will guide you on a journey that's not only enjoyable, but also inspiring. Join us to gain confidence that you need to navigate the trails of life. Welcome to Riding in the Weeds. You are with us for episode 78, and today we're just talking about magic. So we're going to dive in. Our whole concept here is talking about how we can find magic wherever we are. We have been inspired by both of us recently having been away and a bunch of stuff that's brought this topic to light. So we're going to dig in and just experiment with this idea of magic and how can we have more of it. I'm Natasha Lucky. I am a life and performance mountain bike coach. I'm all about helping you find your dreams. I'm here to tell you that you're going to get stuck in the weeds. So let's find ways to get ourselves out of the weeds and keep moving towards the things that we really want in our lives. We are joined by my amazing co-host, Jenny. Jenny, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's kick this off.
Yeah, I'm Jenny Brandon. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. If you are curious about your relationship with your pet or want to know more about how they think and feel about the world, then having a session together is a great way to do that.
Okay, so magic. Jenny, tell us a little bit about magic. Let's kick this off.
Yeah. Realized in conversation with someone after I got back from Florida and the Keys and some tropical travel a couple weeks ago that we were talking about the fact that wherever we go, it always seems so exotic and so amazing. And I'm raving about all of the birds that we saw and all the wildlife and the environment and how beautiful it was. And the person I happen to be talking to is from Northern California, and we're standing in rural farmland of Maryland at the time, and as we're chatting, a hawk just flies right by where we were, screeching, and I commented, I'm pretty sure it was a red-shouldered hawk, and she was like, we don't have that kind of bird and or this environment in Northern California. And it gave me pause that here I am raving about the magic and how amazing it is in southern Florida, and I'm standing in a beautiful environment in Maryland that is just as magical. It's here. We're sharing the same sky. We're even on the same continent at that point. And the magic is everywhere. So just because you go somewhere else and it seems so exotic doesn't mean that you can't have that energy and that magic wherever you are.
Yeah, where this sort of brings us into the weeds is when we think we need to leave where we are in order to get something different. I very much remember being in Moab and I'm riding on these trails and I was like, oh, this is so amazing. And then I was home and I went for a bike ride and I'm riding on this trail and I'm like, this is so cool. And I had this moment of being like, so what is different? Why do I feel different now than I did when I was in Moab? We have world-class trails in Roslyn, where I was at the time, and they have world-class trails in Moab. People travel to Roslyn just like they travel to Moab to go mountain biking. There's nothing different in the experience, but why did it feel different? And why did it feel more magical when I was in Moab? Well, the biggest thing for me was because I was on vacation. I wasn't working. I didn't have my regular life going on. It's like when you go on vacation and suddenly you're inspired to get out of bed early and you want to go and do these things, but before you left, you could barely drag yourself out of bed and the alarm goes off and you're hitting the snooze button. It was a really cool moment for me to be like, there is no difference. The trail is just as awesome. The experience is just as awesome. It's just I'm used to this one. And so when you go somewhere different, you find a different perspective. But you're absolutely right. I think we get lost in our day-to-day grind. And I think that is really where being on a bicycle, being with your animals, working your horses, doing things that light you up is so important, because you can bring that experience and you can bring that magic that you have in those moments in whatever your athletic pursuit is, or when you've got the relationships with non-humans. It allows you to shake it up a little bit. However, if you don't allow yourself to be shaken, then you're always going to be sitting in the muck. And until you go to Mexico on a vacation, you can't find that perspective. If you think you can only have magic by leaving wherever you are, it's not a way to live life.
Yeah. I like your comment on perspective, because I think that's what it really boils down to, is the perspective that we're choosing to see. And it's all about where we put our focus at that point. And if we're focusing on the daily grind and I have to go do this, my laundry list of chores, the to-do list of errands, and not being present with the possibility of where there might be magic in our lives, even in our day-to-day grind, then yeah, we're gonna only be able to find it on vacation when we leave, because we're not allowing ourselves to look for it and shift our perspective of what's going on right here and right now in front of us. Like the hawk that flew across the field. I live in a semi-rural area. It's definitely not completely rural. It's probably a little bit more towards urban or suburban. And I travel to rural areas to do a lot of work. But even in the urban and suburban areas, there's tons of wildlife that I see all the time, every day. It's there. And so it's a matter of looking for it, even looking for things that might not be, quote, wild, but what can you find in your own environment that's interesting, that's creative? Maybe it's the way that the sunlight is playing through the window today because it's actually sunny for the first time in 2 weeks. You know, maybe it's the way the clouds look against the trees. In our area, it's pretty bare and gray right now. The snow's melting, so we're going back to the drab of winter. And maybe it's just the way that the clouds are framed up in the bare trees right now. But you have to be willing to put your focus there and look for it in order to find it. And maybe it means you need to play tourist in your town once every few months or so, just to go explore and see what you can find. But if we don't look for that perspective, then we'll just get stuck in the weeds and mired in our grind and not be able to see what's right in front of us that's always there.
Yeah, I was listening to something the other day and she was talking about how you can be in the most exotic, expensive place on the planet and you can be on vacation and it can be absolutely magical, but you've just had a massive argument with your partner and you've gone down to the pool and you're sitting there and it is not magical. It feels like absolute poop because you've just had this experience and the person next to you has just had the exact opposite experience and it's magical to them. The environment is so often not that important, and the environment can shift your perspective. The same person in the same conversation was talking about how she was making $700 a week and she would take $200 of that and she would go down to the super fancy resort hotel and spend $200 on a massage so she could spend the day in their super fancy spa. And For her, that brought her into a space which allowed her to really feel into the experience that she could have. And it pulled her out of that I can't afford this, I don't make any money, I'm poor, I'm poor, I'm poor. And it pulled her into this space that allowed her to expand and think bigger, right? It's the same as what channel are you listening to? What do you have your radio tuned into? Are you scrolling through Facebook and every single person you know is posting about all the negativity that's going on in the world? Or are you on Instagram and every reel you have is of cute furry animals and cute things and beautiful places and magical destinations? You are going to have a completely different experience in that moment and going forward, because your radio is tuned to a different channel. If you can look around you and just see the magic and ground into that. I was reading a post that someone put up and they were saying that they were really struggling to find gratitude in anything. And right at that moment in the time, I'm on my property in Mexico, which is magical. We've just run out of water, which was kind of
not magical.
Well, it still was magical. I was like, this is cool. What was magical is I rang my friend and said, hey, can I borrow your generator? She's like, yeah, absolutely. Drove over to her house because I had a truck I could borrow. Magical. Drove back to my property, plugged it into the pump, which somehow magically, like I said to my husband, what do I have to do? Like, do I have to go down this hole? What do I have to do here? He's like, get some power, plug the plug into the power, and water will magically transform itself from one tank into the other. And when I was like, oh, this is super cool. And as it's happening, I'm just like, this is so magical. This is so rad. Within moments of me flipping that one switch, I was able to turn the tap on and wash my hands. And I'm like, this is just so cool that it's that easy. It's not about comparing that here I am on this property with these things and somebody else is in Cabo at an all-inclusive resort with hot showers. It's not any less magical. Everything I just explained could have been a real drag. Oh my God. We ran out of water. I couldn't even wash my hands. It really sucked. You know what? I couldn't even flush the toilet. It was such a pain. And then I had to go and find a generator, and that was a real pain in the ass because I had to borrow it from my friend. I could be telling a completely different story. Yet the whole time I was like, this is so flipping cool. Look at my life. And I think that that's where we get to go. If we just notice that it's not about a comparison, it's not about anything, it's about being like, this is cool. I get to have this experience.
Yeah. I think when you have come from struggle or come through a struggle, that it's easy to see the magic again. The sheer fact that any one of us can turn on a tap and just get water, let alone hot water, that is magical. That's bloody magical. I'm sorry. The technology we have available to us, the fact that I'm talking to you from across a continent right now, like, that is magical. I have a vehicle that I can drive around, and the fact that I travel routinely 40 miles to go work a horse for my friend, like, I dare say that even a number of years ago, even probably 50 years ago, traveling 40 miles in a day was probably a lot. When you look at the perspective of how much has changed in the last 100, the last 75, last 50, last 25 years, it's nuts. If you're struggling to find anything magical, play with the light switch for a hot second. My house is so old, I actually have push button light switches in places still.
That's super cool.
It's pretty crazy. Like, it's a button. You know, it's funny because I walk into a room and sometimes I forget what I'm supposed to do. So I'm fumbling against the wall trying to figure out, am I supposed to push this one or flip this one? Like, But when we put in the fans in our bedrooms, there was no ceiling light, so we installed the fans while we upgraded the light switches because we had to run new wiring. Like, it still just baffles my mind that I get to flip a light switch in those rooms now. And I get to have a fan on. It's easy to find the magic when we've come through a struggle or we've come from a place where it wasn't always easy. In your situation in Mexico, you're going to continue improving your property, and someday you're not going to need to worry about borrowing somebody's generator to make sure the water's still running. It's just going to be part of the infrastructure of your property, and it's always going to work. But I hope that it's no less magical to you that it does.
You know, this isn't a privileged conversation. This isn't a comparison conversation. I think it's really important to not be in a space of, I've got this and somebody else doesn't have this. Or the post I was talking about, this person was talking about how they were struggling to find gratitude. And they were overwhelmed and they were struggling to look at their children and feel grateful for them. And I get that. Life can really bring us down sometimes. And then we feel bad about the fact we have all these things and yet we still can't find gratitude for them. And what it sparked for me was really like, empathy. Like, yeah, take a moment to give yourself some love because you're going through stuff. And it doesn't matter where on the spectrum you are, you're going through stuff. The people who have lost their homes in LA, doesn't actually matter what spectrum they're on in terms of wealth or poverty, they're all having the same experience because your house burning down is truly one of the most hideous experiences you can have. Your level of privilege really doesn't matter. And I think it's so important to give yourself some love for the fact you're having an experience. And then my second thought to this person was like, take yourself completely out of trying to feel grateful for your children because right now you just don't. And that's okay. So where can you look that has no emotional attachment to it? And that's where I was like, go wash your hands and just be like, this is cool, I can wash my hands. Because there's no weight to that. There's not a feeling I should feel grateful for my children. You should feel grateful that the power's on. Oh, maybe you just don't. How can you find something that is not weighted or not attached to anything else that you can find that little bit of magic? The fact that there is no snow on the ground and it's 80 degrees and it's January, like, cool, it's warm. Or maybe it's just the fact that the sun came out today versus yesterday or the last 3 weeks when you haven't seen it. Where is that little spark that is not emotionally attached to a feeling of, I should be grateful because I have these beautiful children and I live in a beautiful house and I have a husband who does great things for me? Because sometimes you're just not feeling it. So how can you find something that can make you feel it? In this conversation, I find it really interesting because I have been through a lot and I feel like I'm coming out the other side, and I actually look around and all I see is magic. And that's not the way it's been for a while. And I really appreciate that. And it's not through the, I should feel grateful because I'm here. It's this is really cool. And getting in a camper and driving around and living in a camper for 3 years actually really gave me so much ability to just be so excited for all the things I have. And so much of that has come from my experience of being on my bicycle and having those moments where I'm hurtling down a trail and being like, I get to do this. And that's a thought that I've had for a long time, is I'll be doing something and I go, I get to do this. I'm here right now doing this thing. This is really, really cool. We're driving through the coolest piece of terrain and I look at Ian and I'm like, this is what we are doing right now. Like, how flippin' cool is this? I have no idea how this happened. This is so amazing. And you can have that experience in every moment if you choose to. And I'm not the person who's sitting in the $1 million house having $1 million experiences. I'm actually the opposite. And yet I feel like I live $1 million life sometimes.
Yeah. It's that perspective. It's what we choose to focus on. And in any given moment, I dare say there's something you can find that is really cool or really unique or really special to you that you can be delighted with and find the magic of. And whether that's something that you own, that's in your house, that's a material thing, or whether that's something in the environment. We've talked before about looking for hearts. That's one that's always fun because they appear in all sorts of different places. I was actually scrolling through my pictures on my phone and I found a photo of a rubber band that was in a heart shape. It was just sitting on the desk and I had snapped the picture because it was like, oh, that's so fun. But something as silly as a little rubber band on the desk. And how can you find those things? But this is like everything else we talk about. This is a practice that takes cultivating. And if at first it's easier to go travel somewhere and find that connection and find that energy, okay, great, go do it. And bring it back with you. And bring it back so that you can start to look around you and connect in with that energy wherever you are. And then when you get a little bit bogged down and a little stalled out, go find a place to go. That can be as simple as a walk in the park that's not far from you, or a place you've never been to before that's right in your neighborhood. And go explore it and bring back the magic again.
You're reminding me of a mutual friend of ours. We were talking about going on vacations, and she's like, oh my God, my husband and I haven't been on vacation in like however many years. And so she was inspired. And the first thing that she did was she booked a 2-night stay. I think she had a coupon or a voucher or something at the local casino. And they drove, I think, 20, 30 minutes from their house and went and had a vacation. And it didn't cost them very much money because she didn't have a lot of money at the time. And from that, it's like then suddenly she's like, oh, and now we're going to do this and we're going to do this. And every time it got like further away. But she really started by driving 30 minutes from her house and going and staying at the local casino with her husband. And it sparked magic in their relationship and it sparked possibility in their lives. And it gave her a whole different perspective on something that she had been completely stuck and without. And it was just as simple as doing that. The other thing I wanted to mention, because you're talking about the phone, is, and I thought this was really stupid when I saw somebody had done this, so bear with me. Quite often when I think something's stupid, I actually am like, oh, maybe I should investigate that a little bit more. And I downloaded this frivolous thing and I pay for it every year, and it's like, I don't know, $14 a year or something, but it's like Widgetsmith. And I changed the way that my phone looks. And I made all my little widgets, like I think one of the apps I have is my camera, my Gmail. I redid the widget. I had no time, but I created time to do this. The Gmail widget is the view from my property in Mexico. My Instagram widget is a background of a wave. My Messenger widget is some like super cool view from somewhere. Every single one of the widgets that are on my homepage here are customized with a background of a beach. And then I have the date widget is the view at the beach. And then there's 2 widgets on my homepage that are random photos that come up. And so every time I look at my phone, there's a different cool memory that comes up. So I don't have to sit and take an intentional practice of looking through my photos to see cool stuff. It does it for me. And I'm constantly being reminded of cool stuff I've done. And every time I look at my phone, I'm like, oh, yeah, that was cool.
I love that. That's so much
It's that
fun.
easy. I put a widget on your phone that just automatically pulls photos from your photo album. And sometimes it's sad because it pulls up photos of my cat, Ricky. And I go, oh, I love him so much. I wish he was here with me. But then I remember how magical it was to have him in my life. So there's just little things. Shift the energy.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't need to go anywhere to do that. I mean, heck, even TVs now. I saw somebody, or maybe it was on their tablet, that was like, well, if you really want that cozy fire feel in the winter, there's a YouTube video that's literally a fireplace with a fire in it. And you just turn it on and let it sit there and have the little crackling fire feel. We have so much technology at our disposal now that can create those experiences for us without having to go anywhere. Heck, put a video of a beach up on your screen with the waves if that's what really makes you feel good. It's been shown that the wave sound is really relaxing. So put it up there. We have so many different ways now that are so simple to be able to connect with magic on so many different levels that it's kind of to the point where there's not much of an excuse. The challenge is you just have to make the effort. You just have to make the decision that that's what you're tapping into, that is the energy that you want to cultivate in your life. The fun part is, just like you said, once you start doing it, it starts becoming the normal way that everything is. And it starts showing up in places that are complete surprises. And you get to see extra special things, and the sunset looks amazing when you go out, and so much spontaneous stuff will start happening and flowing. But it takes that decision to start looking for it. And once you do that, that's when the door opens.
Yeah, I want to say that my latest experience was a real testament to how much work I've been doing with my counselor. And because I was sad to leave my dog and my husband and this property that we're on and go to Mexico. Which, like, really? Whenever I have to leave, I'm sad. I don't necessarily get really excited and amped up to go on vacation because I'm like, but where I am is pretty cool. I don't need to leave. And then when I got there, it felt so good and just felt normal, and it didn't feel bitter. It was just like, cool, here I am. This is fun. And then I would have moments where I'd be like, oh, I should be doing this or this. And I'm like, no, this is great. What I'm doing is great. And then as it got to the end, and a few of my friends were like, you should have stayed longer. Can you extend your trip? And I'm like, actually, I'm ready to go home. I don't feel like I want to stay longer. I'm so ready to go back to where I was because I'm excited to be back there again. It's a fun experience to not feel like I have to soak it all in all at once. And it's just, yeah, being where I am and really feeling at peace with that.
Yeah, not feeling like you have to soak it in because it's going to be over. It's going to be gone.
Totally.
Because it's not. It's an energy you cultivate from the inside out. And wherever you go, that's where it is.
Yeah. And we're going to have to pause because this dog of mine is banging on the door. Hold on. We're good now. Yeah. Gotta love it when you have to take a break in the podcast because your incredible magical dog. And again, my dog brings so much magic into my life and just reminds me every day. I think that's the cool thing about animals and relationships with animals as well, is remembering how lucky we are to have these little angels in our lives for the time that we have them. And if you have a pet and you're looking to find magic, just take a moment and be with them, because we get that magic for a short period of time. And I think our animals really get to remind us of how to be present and be grateful and be in the moment, because that's where they're at. And one of the things that you do in your work is really reminding people of that exact thing, and reminding people of how our animals don't create the emotional attachment to things like us humans do. And I think if we can be present with that and bring a little bit more of that energy into our lives, it makes our relationships with our pets and other people in our lives a lot more magical, but it brings us into that present moment of being less attached to the emotions surrounding pain or the emotions surrounding separation. We're so scared to leave our dogs or our animals for periods of time, but they don't feel time in the same way. And they don't feel pain in the same way. And so, how can we bring a little bit of that perspective into our lives? How can that perspective change the way that we have those relationships? And I think the animal communication world is so cool because it does so much more than just allow you to speak with your animals. It also does allow you to tap into a little bit of the magic that us humans just make things so complicated.
Right, we do. And I mean, I'll be the first person to tell you that caring for animals can get to be a drag. Even a dog or even cats. There's everyday, daily care, and sometimes they can be challenging themselves when they're quote unquote misbehaving or doing things that are difficult for us or make our lives more challenging in the moment. It's hard, right? It's hard to find that magic in the relationship. And that can be true of our children and our spouses and partners and all of the people that we interact with. But it's a matter of looking at the fact that you get to do this. I get to have time with my cats every day. I get to have time with my horses every day. And I get to spend time with them. And being able to see them just move through the weather. Watching horses in the weather is wild because they really don't care. Like 99% of the time, they do not care. The two horses this winter are so woolly. They went through the entire polar vortex cold snap where we had lows in the single digits and highs sub-freezing for over 2 weeks. They didn't care. They were fine. They were not cold at all. They were perfectly happy. When you provide all of the basic needs for them, then they're quite content with whatever is going on. It didn't matter if it was snowing or if it was sunny or if it was windy. They're just fine. I think that's one of the biggest gifts that our pets can give us is that ability to be okay in whatever environment and find the magic here and now. And if we can remember to tap into that, like I don't think there's a better reason to have a pet at that point. If that's your motivation and that's your focus in your relationship with your pet, then everything gets to be magical.
Yeah. I think it's taking that step back. Yeah, I get to. Ian will be like, Tash, dog really wants to spend some time outside with you. Like, take him for a walk. Like, it's cold and it's dark and it's weird things happen when I go for walks on this property. I swear I saw a glinting massive animal the other day and I ran home. I have no idea what it was. I still can't figure out what it was. If it really was eyes of an animal, it was a really big animal. Last night I saw a weird red light. I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to go outside at dark. But I'm being forced to go for a walk after dinner. Do you know how good that is for you? If I'm trying to lose weight, that's incredible, right? That's so good for your blood sugar. Thank you, dog. Yeah, I didn't want to do it. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. Yeah, I've got a dog now. I got to go and walk him. But look at what that actually created for me. And I come back and I'm so thankful. Thanks, bud. I really appreciate that. Last night he just wanted to go and find his teddy bear he'd left in the field. He picked it up. He came back and wanted to chase me around with my toy, and I didn't want to go anywhere. But as my husband keeps reminding me, he just wants to spend time with you playing. And yeah, but I'd rather just sit and do nothing. Really? So instead exactly. Instead I get outside and I run around. Again, I'll sum this up. But really, magic is the change of perspective. And a topic for one of our next podcasts, we're going to dig into this a little bit more. But what is the feeling that you're wanting to have? And if you go on a vacation, what's the feeling you think that going on that vacation is going to give you? And can you bring that feeling into the here and the now? Do you need to go on the vacation to feel that way? Do you need to look a certain way to feel that way? Do you need to have certain things to feel that way? Because all of the things that we perceive that we need, I need to go on a vacation in order to feel the magic because my day-to-day life sucks. That's actually not the truth. What does magic feel like to you? And how can you bring that into right now That's the perspective that will allow you to start to feel the magic in times when it doesn't feel magical. And just to remind you, this whole podcast is about the fact that we want to normalize the weeds of life. And we want to normalize the fact that we get stuck in them more often than not. And it's not about not getting stuck in them. There's no judgment around needing to go somewhere or shift the energy to find the magic. This discussion is just about when you find yourself feeling like there is no magic, give yourself some love. Oh, look, here I am, stuck in the weeds again. Okay, what tools am I going to pull out of my toolbox to help me very slowly, one step at a time, just like we talked about last week? There's no rush. Allow yourself to be wherever you are and then just move one moment at a time out of it. And maybe don't move if you don't want to. When you're ready to not be in the weeds, there are so many different ways. And if you can identify what it is that's got you stuck in them, then you can actually take the actions to get you out. I'm going to leave with this one last thought. I read a little post the other day. It sounds like I read a lot of posts. And it said, if you have a problem that can be solved by action, you do not have a problem. And I was like, that's a t-shirt right there. Because if you can solve whatever problem you have, if it can be solved by taking an action step, it's not a problem. It's purely just an action step that hasn't been taken. So yeah, if you've got a problem, it can be solved with action. Take that action step. No more problem. No more weeds. You can keep going along the trail and find some new weeds.
Yep. That's exactly how it works.
All right. Any last words from you, Jenny?
No, I love it. Perfect.
All right. So I am Natasha Lockie. As I said before, I am a mountain bike life performance coach. I am here to help you navigate the weeds of life so that you can direct yourself on your journey, and whether it's in your mountain biking experience or it's just on the trails of life, let's chat about what we can do together. You can find me at Betty Gohard on Instagram, and you can find me, Natasha Lockie, on Facebook and LinkedIn. What about you, Jenny?
Yeah, I'm Jenny Brandon. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. And I am here to help support you and your pet in getting back to the magic and finding a deeper relationship together. If you're having emotional challenges or behavior challenges, that's a great time to reach out so that we can get you back on track to some more harmony in your lives. So you can find me at soulpetconnections.com or on Substack, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube under the same handle. We appreciate you going along for the ride with us today. You can find the podcast on all major podcast platforms and ridingintheweeds.com, as well as on Substack, which is our home base, ridingintheweeds.substack.com. We would love to hear from you. If you have any questions or ideas for the show that you'd love us to dig into, drop us a comment or leave us a message, and we will be happy to do so. We hope you have a wonderful day and find the magic wherever you are.
Awesome. Have a great day, everyone.